Hi friends, and welcome to a new episode of A Journey into Thornbury's Mind. This is the last chapter of our first book, How to Teach Vocabulary. And from the next time we will start a new book. At the end of the video I will tell you about the book that we will deal with from the next time. But now our chapter is about how to put words into work. You can say practicing words, but actually Thornbury starts his book or his chapter by emphasizing the difference between the traditional practice that was used to mean repetition or mechanical repetition without any thinking about the meaning of words, and the type of work he wants to put the words in. So he thinks that this repetition or this mechanical repetition is no guarantee that we can memorize the words later. What he thinks is that we need some kind of tasks which helps us to integrate new words or new information into older one. Through this integration or this integrating information, we can organize words in our mental lexicon in a way which helps us, which enables us to retain these words later and moves that from the short term into the permanent memory. How can we do this? Through some integration tasks. And these integration tasks require students to think about the meaning and to make decisions about these words depending on their meaning. What are these integration tasks? Thornbury tells us about two different types of integration tasks: receptive tasks and productive tasks. As for the receptive tasks, this helps us to retain the words when we read them or when we hear them, so we can recall their meaning. Production tasks helps us to recall the meaning or find the words when we want to express the meaning while we are speaking or we are writing, when we are producing the language. So receptive and productive. Now we will start with the receptive tasks. We have 5 types of tasks, 5 different types. They are in order from the least demanding or cognitively demanding to the most cognitively demanding. The more tasks, the better. And the more cognitively challenging or demanding the task is, the more likely the words will be remembered. So let's start with the least demanding task, which is identifying words, identification of words. Thornbury defines this as finding where the words are where the words are hidden in somewhere. For example, if you look at this word search, now you ask students to find words of cloth. So students now will look for the words in the search and find this identifying the words. And you can also find or another way to do this without any kind of further preparation. After presenting some words and you write them on the board, you ask students, okay, now look at these 5 or 6 words, find them in the text and underline them. So this is very simple. Now, although students don't need the meaning to find or to identify a word, this can help students in terms of the retention of the form when they read. And you can do the same with listening. So you can ask students, okay, look at these 10 words and take the words that you hear in the listening text or in the recording. This means that we focus on the form, either the spoken form in the listening or the written form, the spelling in the reading. So this identifying or identification task helps students in terms of form. Also, you can ask students, okay, look at this text and find words of food. So students will read and try to find the words of it. Here we focus on the form and the meaning because they need to make a decision whether this word in the text is a food item or not. Okay, so these are identification or the ways of identifying words. There are a lot of different tasks to use a variety of tasks. So one time you ask students to underline the words and another time to ask students to, okay, now we are going to listen to a text and look at these 6 words and put them in the order that you hear in the text. So put them in order. Or how many times is this word repeated along the text, whether reading or listening? So all these are different types of identification tasks. Okay, the next type of task is selecting. And we know that selecting means choosing. So we choose one or more of the words and make decisions about them according to their meaning and according to the rubrics of the task. For example, a very famous or popular activity that we all do in the course books and in our classes, odd one out. In the odd one out, you ask students to choose one word which is different from the others. And here Thornbury emphasizes something which is very important. There is no right answer here. So leave students think whatever they think about or make the decision they think about. The only important thing here is that they are able to justify their choice, because it's not about getting the right answer, it's more about the cognitive depth or the cognitive work students exert while they are thinking about why this is different from the other words. So it's here we are searching for, or we are aiming for the cognitive work, not the right answer. So this is a kind of selecting. Another way of selecting in a more personalized way is when you provide students with a set of words, and after presenting these words, you ask them to, okay, choose 5 words or 5 of these words that best describe you. For example, adjectives. So describe the most appropriate adjectives that best describe yourself. This is more motivating because it's personalized. Okay, or choose 5 words of these to learn and to remember for the next time, and the next time you will tell us how you learned these words, how to demonstrate, you will demonstrate how you learned these words. So also here selecting, choosing. So this is number 2, selecting. The next one is matching. Matching means for example, you match the words, so you provide students with the words that you have just presented and you match them with the pictures, with some pictures, or with synonyms, or with antonyms, or you have 2 lists, verbs and nouns, and you ask students, okay, match the verb with a noun to make a collocation. The more collocations you make, the better. Or you can change this into a competition. You give them time and you ask them to write 15 or to form 15 collocations in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, which makes it more interesting. So this is matching activity. And also you can ask students to match words with equivalents in their first language. This is an option. Okay, so this is matching. The next idea or the next way of, or the next tasks, perceptive task, is sorting. Sorting words. Here you have 2 options. The first one is to ask students, okay, you have these words, adjectives, and you classify them or categorize them into positive and adjectives. Or look at these set of words, classify them into fruit and vegetables. Look at these set of words and classify them into safe and dangerous, expensive and cheap. A lot of different ways of classifying words. This is one option. And the other option, if you think your students like the challenge, you can ask them, okay, you have these set of words and categorize them into 2 or 3 categories, and then write the headings yourself. So you don't provide them with the headings, which means that they have more option, that that makes them more independent. And it depends, or it requires more cognitive depth or cognitive work, which makes the task more useful. The more cognitively demanding, don't forget, the more cognitively demanding the task is, the better, the more memorable the words will be. So this is sorting. Okay, also you can solve these words or solve them. You ask students to solve them. I like these words, I don't like these words. But they need to say why. So they don't just put some words in and some words, you ask them why. Then after they finish, you can ask students to compare their answers together and to justify their answer. The most important thing here is to justify. If there is not a correct answer and a wrong answer, such as in terms of collocation, whether it is correct or not, the teacher can decide. But if there is no correct answer here, the student's ability to justify their answer is key in this kind of tasks, because you in order to guarantee that you thought about the meaning of these words, not just put them like this. Okay, so sorting words. The last way of of tasks is ranking words or sequencing words. You can ask students or give them some means of transport, and you ask them to put them in order of the safest. So put the safest number one and then the least or the less safe, like this, and until they find to the most dangerous means of transport. Another way, some words and from the most expensive to the cheapest. So rank them. Other ones from the most difficult, some words or some subjects, for example, the most difficult to the easiest. Or you can ask them the most difficult for you to learn to the least difficult, or the easiest from the easiest to difficult for you. And here, when it is personalized, it means that there is no correct answer, which means that you need to ask them for reasons why they made this order. Give students a chance to talk together or compare their answers in pair and justify their answers. You go around, monitor, and give them the feeling that you are hearing them. Then you can discuss this together. So these 5 different tasks are receptive tasks, which helps students to retain these words when they receive the language. Now we have also a different type of tasks which require cognitive depth, but in a production way. So it requires students to produce the language. Here we have 2 ways of doing this. You can provide the context and ask students for the word, such as in the case of gap fill. You give the students the sentence or the text and ask them to fill in the gaps. Here the context is there. From the context, students try to find the right word and recall it, which replicates what we do in our real life. We have the context, we have the situation, and we have, or this situation requires a meaning, a word, then we recall the word. So this kind of tasks help students in terms of production of the words. Another way, when you provide the words and you ask students to create the context. For example, you give students some words and you ask them, okay, use these words, use each word to write a question to ask your students. So for example, the word delicious. You can ask students, okay, what is the most delicious food you have ever eaten? Like this. So he tries to make questions. He produces the language here. He puts the word in the appropriate context. You can also ask students to write sentences about yourself, right? Use each word to write a sentence about yourself. So this is also personalized. You can make the task more interesting if you ask students to play it as a game, to play it as a game. So you ask students write 5 sentences. 4 of them are true and 1 is a false, and then we will guess. So after they finish, they guess, they work in pairs and they guess which is the lie of the 5 sentences, which gives them a more opportunity to visit the words and recall the meaning and make decisions about these words. Another way is when you give students 5 or 6 words and you ask students to use these words to write a story of their own, to invent a story. And this is also very demanding, or cognitively demanding task, which requires a lot of thinking and creation from the part of students. They require students to be creative. Then they can read each other's story and make judgments about these stories. Another opportunity for learning. So these are the 2 different tasks, receptive tasks and productive tasks, which help students to integrate new words into the old ones, which Thornbury thinks that this is the way that we move our words or knowledge from the short term into the permanent memory. And the more decisions we make, the more tasks we have, the better and the more memorable the words are, the more cognitively demanding the tasks are, the more memorable the words will be. This is the end of the book, the first book, How to Teach Vocabulary. From the next time, we will deal with a very interesting book, which is an A to Z of ELT. But I'd like to say that we will have 2 weeks off, 2 weeks kind of rest, and then we will continue after resume after 2 weeks. So if you want to follow the next book, an A to Z of ELT, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, and meet you after 2 weeks. Thank you.